There comes a moment in every life of ambition, in every journey of purpose, when the very fire that once illuminated your path flickers, when the vision you once held steady begins to blur, and the familiar whisper of surrender grows louder than the call of triumph. In that moment, the human mind faces its most perilous test, not of talent, not of circumstance, but of the inner command of its own faculties. For it is here, in the crucible of fatigue and frustration, that character is forged, and destiny either bends to your will or slips silently through your fingers. You must understand, first and foremost, that discipline is not a mere habit. It is a law of nature, as certain and unforgiving as the rising Sunday. To remain disciplined when the world urges surrender is to operate in harmony with that law, to recognize that mastery over one's inner world is the ultimate key to mastery over every external condition. Without it, knowledge is impotent, opportunity is wasted, and wealth of any kind, financial, intellectual, spiritual, is nothing but a fleeting illusion. Observe closely the nature of human emotion. It is both a servant and a tyrant. When left unchecked, emotion becomes the most destructive of all forces, dictating your actions, poisoning your thoughts, and guiding your decisions into valleys of regret. If you allow despair, doubt, or anger to govern your response, you surrender the most precious possession you have, your mind. But if you exercise the conscious power to detach from emotion, to rise above the instinctive reactions that bind ordinary men to mediocrity, you awaken a force of unprecedented magnitude. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is not apathy. It is the calm, deliberate recognition that the events around you do not define you, that circumstances are inert and only gain power through your acquiescence. Consider the sculptor faced with an unyielding block of marble. He does not rage against its resistance. He does not lament the difficulty. He applies measured force, guided by vision, patience, and purpose, until the masterpiece emerges. So too must you treat your life, your goals, and the trials that test your resolve. Now hear this. Mental discipline is built upon three pillars, each immutable, each non-negotiable. The first is definiteness of purpose. Know precisely why you endure. The second is self-discipline, the ability to command your thoughts, your actions, and your responses to align with that purpose. And the third is accurate thinking, the capacity to observe reality as it is, unclouded by fear, hope, or wishful illusion. Remove even one of these pillars, and the edifice of success collapses under the slightest adversity. Let us examine the first pillar, definiteness of purpose. A mind without purpose is like a ship without a rudder, drifting aimlessly at the mercy of every storm, every whim of circumstance. To remain disciplined when fatigue gnaws at your will, when obstacles tower like unscalable cliffs, you must anchor yourself to an unshakable purpose. Write it, speak it, burn it into the deepest recesses of your consciousness until it becomes the lodestar by which every thought, every action, every heartbeat is measured. The second pillar, self-discipline, is where most falter. It is easy to speak of ambition, to dream grandly, and yet so few cultivate the inner power to persist when inspiration wanes. True self-discipline is forged in quiet, in repetition, in the moments when no one watches, when the applause is absent, and the only witness to your effort is your own soul. It is choosing the right action, over and over, even when desire screams for ease, comfort, or distraction. Understand the mechanics of this principle. Every time you resist the impulse to quit, every time you act in alignment with your purpose despite fatigue or frustration, you are strengthening an invisible muscle, a command center within your consciousness. Soon, the mind that once balked at hardship becomes your ally, a loyal general guiding your actions with precision, ensuring that surrender is no longer an option in the calculus of your life. The third pillar, accurate thinking, is the lens through which discipline and purpose manifest. To be accurate in thought is to see circumstances without embellishment, without distortion, without the shadows of fear or the false glow of hope. It is to assess, to decide, to act based solely on facts and intelligent inference. Many fail not because they lack talent or opportunity, but because they allow distorted thinking to govern their response. They interpret temporary setbacks as permanent defeat. They inflate minor obstacles into insurmountable barriers. They cower before imagined consequences and waste their energy on illusions. Accurate thinking, married to discipline and purpose, dissolves such illusions. Now, consider the interplay of emotion and action. The untrained mind reacts instinctively. A harsh word provokes anger, a delay provokes anxiety, a setback provokes despair. But the disciplined mind intervenes between stimulus and response. It recognizes the pause, the space in which choice exists, and exercises command. Here is the law. Between any event and your reaction lies the power of choice. Use it, and you become the architect of your inner world. Neglect it, and you become the captive of circumstance, the plaything of fleeting moods, and the architect of your own defeat. To persevere when you feel like giving up, you must embrace the law of mental neutrality. This law is simple in principle, yet profound in consequence. Your mind must be trained to observe without attachment, to respond without surrender, to act without the tyranny of transient emotion. Consider the storm-tossed sea. The waves rise, thunder, and crash upon the shore, yet the lighthouse stands unwavering. It does not rage against the elements. It does not tremble in fear. It merely fulfills its purpose, radiating light with calm certainty. Your mind must be that lighthouse. Mental neutrality is not indifference. It is a heightened awareness, a command of perception that allows you to see the obstacles as they are neither greater nor smaller than reality dictates. When frustration knocks at your door, it is your neutrality that opens the gate to understanding rather than despair. When fatigue threatens to conquer your will, it is neutrality that reveals the path forward. You see, most people are slaves to circumstance precisely because they allow emotion to color every observation. They interpret difficulty as personal insult. They inflate minor adversity into catastrophic failure. They mistake temporary pain for permanent defeat. To train yourself in mental neutrality, begin with the recognition of your internal landscape. Observe the thoughts that surge unbidden, the emotional currents that rise and fall. Label them without judgment. This is anger, this is doubt, this is fatigue. By naming them, you detach. By detaching, you prevent them from dictating your actions. You do not deny their existence. You do not suppress them, for suppression breeds eruption. You merely acknowledge and redirect, choosing deliberate action over instinctive reaction. Let me speak plainly. Emotional detachment is your strongest ally in building unstoppable discipline. The moment you allow emotion to rule, you forfeit clarity. The moment clarity is lost, decisions falter, energy dissipates, and surrender becomes inevitable. But when you cultivate detachment, you gain something far more powerful than comfort. You gain choice. You gain sovereignty over your inner world. You gain the ability to act decisively even in the face of overwhelming discouragement. Here is the critical insight. No external circumstance can rob you of success unless you allow it to control your mind. Poverty, rejection, betrayal, failure, these are not enemies. They are tests. They are mirrors reflecting the weaknesses you have yet to conquer. Every great achiever in history has faced trials far more harrowing than those confronting you now. And yet they triumphed because they mastered the inner faculties that most abandon. They cultivated thought so precise, so disciplined, and so immune to distraction that no external force could divert them from their chosen path. Let us now examine the principle of thought first, which Napoleon Hill emphasized throughout his work. Every action begins as a thought. Every habit, every skill, every triumph, every failure, all germinate first in the fertile soil of your mind. Therefore, to command your destiny, you must command your thoughts. Do not allow them to drift. Do not permit them to cling to fear, regret, or comfort. Every day, every hour, you must assert control. This thought serves my purpose. This thought strengthens my resolve. This thought aligns with my vision. All else must be rejected or redirected. Do not underestimate the difficulty of this practice. The mind is accustomed to wandering, to reacting, to surrendering to habit. But discipline is not cultivated in comfort. It is forged in the friction of resistance, in the conscious choice to act in alignment with your higher self rather than with fleeting desire. Think of the athlete who runs beyond exhaustion, the student who studies while others sleep, the entrepreneur who continues building despite repeated setbacks. Their victories are not accidental. They are the product of relentless thought mastery and uncompromising inner discipline. Now, as you advance in this journey, recognize the role of autosuggestion, a principle Hill called essential to self-mastery. The thoughts you feed your mind, repeatedly and deliberately, shape the very structure of your consciousness. When fatigue whispers quit, when fear murmurs you cannot, when the world seems indifferent to your efforts, your words and affirmations must speak louder. I persist. I endure. I am stronger than temporary discomfort. My purpose guides me. Repeat this until your subconscious accepts it as truth. Let these thoughts infiltrate your being, guiding every action with invisible, relentless force. Remember, discipline is not merely a response to external pressure. It is a decision to act regardless of external or internal resistance. It is a conscious refusal to yield to impulse, distraction, or doubt. Every time you choose action over inaction, decision over hesitation, persistence over surrender, you are building an unshakable foundation. Every small victory over your inner resistance compounds into an unstoppable momentum that no adversity can halt. Consider this analogy. A river does not reach the ocean by leaping over every rock. It flows persistently, navigating obstacles with patience and purpose. Similarly, your disciplined mind advances not necessarily in great leaps, but through relentless, deliberate action, adapting to the obstacles, learning from resistance, and steadily moving toward the ultimate objective. To yield in moments of difficulty is to reverse this current, to squander your potential, and to betray the power residing within you. And now let us confront the inevitable question. What do you do when all motivation seems exhausted, when the burden feels too great, when the fire within flickers as though it may die? The answer lies not in inspiration but in habit. Motivation is ephemeral. Discipline is permanent. When desire wanes, you must rely on the structures you have already built, the routines, the commitments, the principles, and the absolute refusal to surrender. You must act as though surrender is impossible because, in the realm of achievement, it is indeed a choice you cannot afford to make. Now, let us speak of response versus reaction, a distinction that separates those who achieve greatness from those who merely endure. The reaction is immediate, instinctive, a surrender to the impulse of emotion. It is the automatic movement that allows fear, anger, or desire to dictate behavior. Response, by contrast, is deliberate, measured, and controlled. It is the exercise of choice in the space between stimulus and action, between the insult and your reply, between the setback and your effort, between failure and your next attempt, lies a moment of sovereignty, the moment in which discipline is enacted and destiny is steered. To master this distinction, you must cultivate pause as a weapon of thought. When provoked, when exhausted, when doubt assails you, do not act immediately. Breathe, observe, evaluate. Name the emotion, but do not surrender to it. Ask yourself, which action aligns with my purpose? Which choice strengthens my resolve rather than diminishes it? This pause, however brief, is where victory is won. The disciplined mind refuses the slavery of impulse and instead commands the outcome. But mastery of response demands more than passive observation. It requires preparation, rehearsal, and deliberate conditioning. Just as a general trains his army before the battle, you must train your mind before adversity arrives. Anticipate moments of weakness, visualize them, and rehearse your disciplined response. Create mental scripts for setbacks, for insults, for fatigue. Condition your thoughts to navigate these storms with precision, so that when they arrive inevitable, merciless, they encounter not panic or surrender, but a mind steadfast and unshakable. Let me emphasize, resilience is a discipline, not a trait. It is cultivated, not inherited. It is built through repeated confrontation with difficulty and deliberate choice to persist. When the mind wavers, remind yourself that the obstacles are not the enemy, they are the proving ground. They reveal the strength you have cultivated, the principles you have internalized, and the unyielding capacity of the disciplined will. Every hardship is a gymnasium for your inner power. Every setback is a teacher disguised in adversity. Now consider the role of deliberate detachment from outcomes. Most failures of discipline occur because the individual becomes attached to results, measuring effort by immediate reward rather than by the consistent application of principle. The disciplined mind recognizes that effort is the cause, while outcome lies partially beyond control. By detaching from immediate reward, by acting with integrity and consistency regardless of external validation, you achieve a freedom of action unavailable to those enslaved by desire. Like the archer who releases the arrow without fear of the target, the disciplined mind acts with purpose and precision, unburdened by the tyranny of expectation. There is, furthermore, an essential ally to discipline, often overlooked: physical conditioning and habit of body. The mind and body are inseparable in the exercise of sustained effort. Fatigue in the body clouds clarity of thought, weakens resolve, and amplifies emotional susceptibility. Discipline of the mind is fortified by discipline of the body, by consistent sleep, by purposeful nutrition, by exercise that strengthens endurance. These external practices are not mere lifestyle choices. They are extensions of mental discipline, reflections of the inner command over one's faculties, and enablers of sustained action when the world demands your all. And now, to those who feel temptation to surrender creeping into the marrow of their being, I offer this principle above all: action conquers despair. Thought without action is impotent. Planning without execution is mere fantasy. Even the smallest action repeated consistently creates momentum. Every step forward, no matter how slight, is a victory over the inertia of despair. You must cultivate a regimen of deliberate action. The tasks aligned with your purpose, pursued without delay, executed regardless of the internal resistance. It is in this unyielding practice that discipline becomes habit, and habit becomes the engine of unstoppable progress. Finally, let us confront the inevitability of temptation to give up. You will encounter it in the silence of early morning, in the fatigue of late night, in the discouragement of repeated setbacks. It is a shadow that haunts every ambitious soul. But recognize this: the mind that surrenders is the mind that has abandoned principle. The mind that persists, even when desire fades, even when emotion rebels, even when success is unseen, is the mind that commands destiny. The difference is not circumstance, it is mastery of the inner world. Hear me clearly. The secret of enduring discipline is neither luck nor inspiration. It is the unceasing, conscious application of principle. It is the relentless choice to act in alignment with purpose, to command thought, to manage emotion, to respond rather than react, to detach from immediate reward, to build habit, to condition the body, to rehearse for adversity, to act in the absence of motivation, and to cultivate momentum in the face of resistance. This is the architecture of success. This is the path upon which the ordinary are left behind, and the extraordinary ascend. Now, let us examine the art and science of visualization, the deliberate creation of mental images so vivid that the mind accepts them as truth. Visualization is not daydreaming. It is the deliberate projection of your purpose into the theater of the mind, where each thought, each image, each imagined action becomes a rehearsal for reality. The individual who visualizes success in detail, who sees every obstacle overcome, every challenge met, and every goal attained, commands an advantage invisible to those who rely solely on chance or hope. Picture, if you will, the architect of a magnificent building. Before the first stone is laid, before the first beam is raised, he envisions every detail, the symmetry, the materials, the balance, the function of every space. This vision guides each decision, each action, and ensures that when construction begins, there is no hesitation, no improvisation without purpose. So too must you envision your path to success with precision. See the disciplined action, see the mastery over emotion, see the small victories accumulating into unstoppable momentum. Embed these images into your mind until they drive your actions unconsciously, until thought and action are inseparable. Coupled with visualization is autosuggestion, the deliberate, repeated affirmation of purpose and principle. Napoleon Hill revealed its power, and its mastery separates the extraordinary from the ordinary. Every thought you feed your subconscious molds the structure of your consciousness. Words repeated with conviction, spoken aloud or mentally, serve as architects of your inner life. I act with discipline, I control my mind, I endure, I persist, I am stronger than temporary discomfort. I am aligned with my purpose. Repeat these statements consistently, especially when the inner resistance rises, until the subconscious accepts them as irrefutable law. Here is a truth often overlooked. The mind will obey what it believes, not what it wishes. If you tell yourself you are weak, that obstacles are insurmountable, that fatigue is stronger than willpower, your mind will conform, your actions will falter, and surrender will become inevitable. But if you command your mind with conviction, if you saturate it with thought of strength, purpose, and precise action, your mind becomes an instrument of unstoppable discipline, capable of sustaining effort far beyond ordinary expectation. And now, let us address the role of personal initiative, the courage to act without waiting for instruction, approval, or encouragement. Initiative is the spark that converts thought into reality. It is the refusal to wait for the right moment, for motivation, for inspiration, or for the universe to grant permission. To remain disciplined when desire wanes is to act boldly on initiative, regardless of circumstance, regardless of fatigue, regardless of doubt. Initiative is the engine of momentum. Without it, even the strongest principles remain inert, and the disciplined mind becomes a prisoner of hesitation. Observe also the principle of compound effect in disciplined action. Small actions executed consistently accumulate into outcomes far greater than isolated, heroic efforts. The person who takes a single step each day toward mastery may seem ordinary, may seem slow, may seem unremarkable, but in months and years, these repeated, disciplined actions compound into extraordinary results. This is the secret that separates the few who persist from the many who surrender. Discipline over time, impervious to temporary discouragement, guided by unshakable purpose, and anchored in the mastery of inner faculties. Consider, too, the necessity of reflection without judgment. Each day, take a moment to observe your actions, your adherence to principle, your victories and lapses. Reflect not with despair at failure, but with clarity and commitment to course correct. Identify the moments you surrendered to emotion, the instances where impulse dictated action, and resolve to respond differently next time. This deliberate reflection strengthens the neural pathways of disciplined behavior, reinforces self-command, and ensures continuous improvement. Now, hear this final commanding truth. The apex of discipline is freedom. The freedom to act without hesitation. The freedom to endure without complaint. The freedom to pursue purpose, regardless of distraction, doubt, or external circumstance. True power is not in control over others. It is mastery over oneself. The mind that has been disciplined, trained in neutrality, fortified with autosuggestion, directed by purpose, and guided by accurate thinking becomes invincible. Such a mind does not falter when the world grows dark. Such a mind does not surrender when desire wanes. Such a mind does not yield when adversity arrives. And so, my listener, the choice is yours. To succumb to temporary desire, to surrender when fatigue gnaws at your will, to drift with the currents of circumstance, or to command your mind, to master your thoughts, to act decisively, to endure relentlessly, and to persist until your vision is realized. Every great achievement in history was built upon this choice. Every extraordinary life was guided by it, and now it is presented to you as the decisive instrument of your destiny. In conclusion, discipline is not abstract, it is not theoretical, it is action, it is repetition, it is mastery of thought, it is the refusal to surrender to impulse. It is the conscious choice to act in alignment with purpose, to detach from transient emotion, to rehearse for adversity, to visualize triumph, to reinforce your mind with autosuggestion, to take initiative, and to compound your efforts daily. This is the architecture of success. This is the law of achievement. And this, above all, is the pathway to a life unshakable, unstoppable, and extraordinary. Rise now. Command your mind, act with purpose, persist beyond fatigue, persist beyond doubt, persist beyond despair. The world may challenge you, circumstances may oppose you, obstacles may tower, but none of this can prevail against a disciplined mind. Your destiny is not given, it is claimed. Claim it, command it, and persist relentlessly until it is yours. But mastery is not achieved merely by understanding principles. It is achieved by living them, by integrating them into the marrow of your being until every thought, every impulse, every action conforms to the law of purpose and the command of disciplined thought. Consider the warrior preparing for battle. He does not merely study tactics or memorize maneuvers. He internalizes strategy, trains relentlessly, conditions body and mind, and envisions victory so vividly that hesitation becomes impossible. So too must you prepare yourself for the battles that life invariably brings, the battles of doubt, the skirmishes of fatigue, the sieges of discouragement, the ambushes of fear. Let us examine the mechanics of resilience under relentless pressure. When adversity strikes, as it will, the untrained mind fractures. It searches for excuses, it seeks comfort, it whispers surrender. But the disciplined mind engages in a subtle yet powerful technique. It reframes challenge as opportunity, suffering as a teacher, and pressure as a tool of refinement. You must cultivate this reframing consciously. Each obstacle is a crucible forging inner strength. Each setback is a lesson in ingenuity, patience, and persistence. The world, in its indifference, tests your resolve, and only those who meet these tests with deliberate mastery emerge victorious. Now, consider the law of progressive effort, which is the secret engine of all great achievement. Just as a muscle strengthens only under increasing load, so too does the mind, the will, and the capacity for discipline expand under deliberate incremental challenges. Begin where you are. Apply effort consistently. Increase the challenge gradually. Persist when the mind screams for rest. Persist when the body signals exhaustion. These small, repeated victories over internal resistance accumulate into a formidable force, invisible yet irresistible, that propels you toward extraordinary results. And let us speak of mental rehearsal in adversity, a strategy employed by every champion, thinker, and achiever. Before the day begins, before the battle commences, visualize the trials you will face, anticipate the moments of temptation, and rehearse the disciplined response. Picture the distraction and the fatigue, the criticism and the opposition, and see yourself navigating each with calm precision and unwavering resolve. The mind, when prepared, will execute what it has rehearsed. Indecision is replaced by command. Hesitation is replaced by action. Weakness is replaced by unshakable determination. There is also a subtle but potent strategy in the management of attention. Most surrender not because effort is too great, but because attention is misdirected. Energy is wasted on complaint, on fear, on distraction. The disciplined mind channels attention relentlessly toward the tasks that align with purpose. It ignores noise, it filters negativity, it resists the temptation to linger on setbacks or speculate on the impossible. Concentrated thought applied consistently produces results beyond ordinary comprehension. The distracted mind, no matter how talented, drifts toward surrender. The focused mind, however, advances inevitably toward mastery. Furthermore, you must cultivate strategic detachment from opinion. Approval is transient, criticism is inevitable, and the judgments of others are irrelevant to your purpose unless you permit them to dictate your action. Emotional dependence upon the approval of others is a subtle trap, a hidden shackle, a quiet assassin of discipline. Detach. Align only with principle, with purpose, and with the deliberate course you have chosen. The mind, thus freed from the tyranny of external judgment, becomes a sovereign instrument of unstoppable action. Now, consider the power of sequential decision-making under strain. When the mind is fatigued, when doubt creeps in, it is the ability to make small, deliberate decisions consistently that sustains discipline. Each decision, each moment of deliberate choice to act in alignment with purpose rather than impulse, compounds into the momentum necessary to overcome inertia, despair, and temptation. The person who masters this sequential discipline achieves not only victory over circumstance, but mastery over self, a force far more powerful than any external obstacle. Let us also address the principle of accountability to self, a mechanism of inner authority. Do not wait for external consequences to enforce action. Hold yourself accountable. Measure every choice, every delay, every lapse in discipline against the standard of your own purpose. The mind that develops self-accountability becomes self-correcting, self-directing, and resilient beyond ordinary capacity. Weakness, excuse, and surrender find no purchase against a mind governed by principle and measured by its own unwavering standard. Finally, as the culmination of all these principles, embrace the habit of relentless reflection and adjustment. At the close of each day, observe your thoughts, actions, and emotional responses. Celebrate adherence to principle. Correct lapses without self-condemnation. Refine strategies, reinforce auto-suggestions, recalibrate visualization, and prepare the mind for the challenges of the coming day. This continuous, iterative self-mastery transforms the ordinary pursuit of discipline into an unstoppable trajectory of achievement. And now, my listener, I leave you with the ultimate truth. The discipline you cultivate is not a temporary tool. It is the very architecture of your destiny. Every great life in history, every achievement, every triumph, every conquest of the ordinary was built upon the deliberate, unwavering application of these principles. To surrender is optional. To persevere is a choice. The world challenges you. Fatigue threatens you. Desire tempts you. Circumstance opposes you. Yet none of these can command your mind unless you permit it. The mind, once mastered, is an instrument of absolute freedom, power, and achievement. Rise now. Command your thoughts. Direct your actions. Control your emotion. Persist when desire falters. Persist when fatigue assails. Persist when the world turns indifferent. Build the unyielding habits, reinforce the disciplined mind, and visualize the triumph that awaits. Persist relentlessly, for the victory belongs to those who refuse to surrender, to those who act decisively, to those who cultivate the sovereign power of their inner world. Your destiny is not written. It is forged. It is claimed. It is earned through discipline, through mastery of thought, through emotional detachment, and through the relentless, unyielding pursuit of purpose. You now hold the keys. You now have the map. You now possess the law. Act, persist, triumph, and in so doing transform the ordinary course of life into an extraordinary journey of unstoppable success. Consider, for example, the life of Thomas Edison, a man whose name is synonymous with relentless innovation. Edison's path was not one of ease. It was a journey littered with failures, experiments that produced nothing but smoke, ridicule from peers, and the gnawing temptation to abandon the pursuit. Yet he mastered the principle we have spoken of, the refusal to surrender to emotion, to circumstance, or to temporary failure. He practiced the law of mental neutrality by observing each failed experiment without despair, by detaching from the ego-driven desire for immediate recognition, and by focusing instead on the deliberate application of purpose. When asked about his repeated failures, Edison famously replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This is mental mastery in action, a perfect example of how discipline and deliberate detachment transform obstacles into instruments of success. Now, let us consider strategic resilience in the face of criticism. Every ambitious mind will encounter naysayers, skeptics, and detractors. The untrained mind reacts with anger, defensiveness, or self-doubt. The disciplined mind, however, understands that external criticism is merely data information to be observed, filtered, and acted upon selectively. Detach emotionally from judgment, assess the validity impartially, and use what is constructive while discarding the remainder. Napoleon Hill often emphasized that the ability to extract opportunity from criticism is a hallmark of those who achieve extraordinary results. We can also draw lessons from the field of athletics where discipline is most visible. Consider the marathon runner whose training spans months, whose body endures fatigue, soreness, and the temptation to rest. The athlete's victories are not a matter of momentary inspiration. They are the cumulative product of repeated, deliberate action, self-imposed challenges, and mastery over desire and comfort. Each grueling step, each early morning, each mile run in fatigue strengthens not only the body but the mental faculty, the same faculty required to endure life's more subtle, yet no less demanding challenges. Here we encounter a principle often overlooked, the symbiosis of physical and mental discipline. The body and mind are inseparable partners in the cultivation of inner strength. When the body is conditioned, the mind is clearer, more resilient, and more capable of sustaining deliberate action under pressure. Engage in regular, purposeful physical activity, not merely for health, but as a reinforcement of mental discipline. Let fatigue in one arena be conquered to build strength in another. And now, let us extend our exploration of autosuggestion with layered complexity. Begin each day not only by repeating affirmations, but by embedding them in the context of real-life scenarios. Visualize yourself navigating moments of doubt, frustration, and fatigue, speaking to your inner self with conviction. I endure, I act, I persist. Imagine each decision, each response, each exertion of will as a step along the path of your purpose. Your mind, trained in this fashion, begins to internalize disciplined behavior so that when the test arrives, it is not a test of effort, but a natural expression of habit and prepared action. Now, consider the compound effect of small decisions under sustained effort. Each choice to act in alignment with purpose is a seed. Each choice to surrender is a root of failure. The extraordinary individual recognizes the subtle yet profound impact of repeated, disciplined decision-making. Refuse the temptation to rationalize inaction. Refuse the seductive allure of comfort. Every minor action taken deliberately compounds into results that, in retrospect, seem almost miraculous, but are nothing more than the inevitable consequence of persistent, disciplined thought and action. Even more, understand the value of deliberate discomfort as a teacher. Life will never offer perfect conditions. Comfort is the silent killer of discipline. The mind that avoids challenge is the mind that shrinks before adversity. The mind that embraces deliberate discomfort, choosing tasks that stretch capability, tackling challenges that invite failure, and enduring temporary pain in pursuit of higher purpose, becomes resilient, adaptive, and unstoppable. Remember that every setback, every struggle, every hardship is a deliberate instructor in the Academy of Mental Mastery. And finally, to those moments when inspiration has long fled and fatigue reigns supreme, rely upon the foundation of principle. Motivation is fleeting. Discipline is permanent. The unshakable mind acts according to law, not mood. It moves according to purpose, not emotion. It persists in small, deliberate actions until momentum accumulates and the impossible becomes inevitable. This is not a theory. It is the observable law of achievement, evidenced across history, across disciplines, and across every domain where extraordinary results emerge. Now, let us examine the lives of those whose mastery of mental discipline transformed the impossible into reality. Consider Abraham Lincoln, a man beset by personal tragedy, political opposition, and repeated failure. Before he became the president who preserved a nation, he endured loss after loss, business failures, electoral defeats, the deaths of loved ones, relentless criticism. Yet he practiced the principles of deliberate thought, persistent action, and emotional detachment. He did not react impulsively to criticism or despair. He analyzed, he strategized, and he acted in alignment with his ultimate purpose. His persistence in the face of relentless adversity illustrates the immutable law. Mastery of one's inner world is the cornerstone of external triumph. Similarly, Winston Churchill, whose leadership during the darkest days of war demanded unyielding courage, demonstrated the principle of mental rehearsal and preparedness. Every decision he made, every speech he delivered was informed by reflection, anticipation, and the deliberate exercise of judgment under pressure. When the world seemed poised for collapse, Churchill's mind, disciplined and unshakable, navigated chaos with clarity. He understood that emotion could either be a servant or a tyrant, and he ensured that his mind remained sovereign, commanding, and impervious to fleeting despair. Even in the realm of science and invention, the law of disciplined thought proves universal. Marie Curie, who pioneered the study of radioactivity, faced skepticism, financial difficulty, and societal bias. Yet her relentless pursuit of knowledge was anchored in purpose, disciplined research, and the refusal to surrender to discouragement. Every experiment, every calculation, every long hour in isolation reinforced the principle that sustained, deliberate effort aligned with purpose yields results beyond ordinary expectation. From these examples, we draw a critical lesson. Discipline is not a luxury of talent, it is a necessity of achievement. The mind untrained in mastery will yield to fear, fatigue, and failure. The mind trained in deliberate action, emotional detachment, and the exercise of sovereign choice becomes invincible, capable of sustaining effort through circumstances that would overwhelm the ordinary individual. Let us now turn to practical daily routines that reinforce inner mastery. Begin each morning with deliberate visualization of your purpose. Review your goals, rehearse your responses to anticipated challenges, and mentally affirm your commitment to action. Throughout the day, pause to observe your emotional state. Name each feeling without judgment. Decide consciously whether it will dictate your action or whether you will act in alignment with principle. In the evening, reflect upon your choices, noting victories and lapses alike, and resolve to reinforce your discipline with renewed commitment. These routines, repeated daily, embed mastery into your subconscious, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of competence, confidence, and unstoppable momentum. Consider also the role of strategic isolation, the deliberate removal of distraction, noise, and unnecessary influence. The disciplined mind must protect its attention as it would a precious asset. Minimize indulgence in trivial entertainment, idle gossip, and unproductive interaction. Surround yourself instead with principles, knowledge, and influences that elevate thought and action. Your environment must support your purpose, for even the most disciplined mind falters when inundated with chaos. Now, address the principle of incremental mastery. Discipline is not achieved through heroic effort alone, but through small, consistent victories over time. Choose a single action today aligned with purpose. Execute it with precision. Repeat tomorrow and the day after. Each repetition strengthens neural pathways, fortifies the will, and trains the mind to act without hesitation. The accumulation of these small, deliberate actions produces results far beyond what is immediately visible, compounding into extraordinary achievement. We must also embrace calculated risk as a tool of discipline. The individual who refuses to act out of fear of discomfort or failure stagnates. To remain disciplined when giving up tempts you is to act decisively despite uncertainty. Every calculated risk, every deliberate decision to engage challenge with courage reinforces resilience, sharpens judgment, and strengthens mastery of the inner faculties. The comfort of avoidance is the enemy. The discomfort of deliberate action is the teacher. Finally, let us consider the ultimate truth. Success is the inevitable product of mental mastery applied persistently over time. The mind trained in emotional detachment, disciplined thought, deliberate action, visualization, autosuggestion, reflection, and incremental mastery becomes unstoppable. The individual who persists, who chooses purpose over impulse, principle over comfort, and action over surrender, will achieve results that the untrained mind deems impossible. And so, my listener, the final command is clear. Rise, seize control of your thoughts, discipline your actions, detach from fleeting emotion. Rehearse your responses, visualize your triumph, reinforce your mind with autosuggestion, protect your attention, take initiative, embrace deliberate discomfort. Compound your victories through incremental action, reflect, adjust, persist relentlessly, for your destiny is not given, it is forged, it is claimed, it is earned through mastery of the mind. The world may challenge you, circumstance may oppose you, fatigue may weigh upon you, doubt may assail you, but none of this can prevail against the mind that refuses to surrender. You now hold the keys. You now possess the law. You now command the power to transform adversity into triumph, hesitation into action, and ordinary effort into extraordinary achievement. Persist, endure, master, triumph, and in so doing, leave a mark upon the world that testifies not merely to your ambition, but to your unshakable mastery over the most formidable force in existence, yourself.